Social influence and social change. So how the role of social influence and research into social influence has helped us understand the process of social change. So the process of social change. So this process of social change happens in sort of 6 broad ways. So firstly, the minority needs to draw attention to the issue. So if we're exposed to the views of the minority and it draws our attention, we will create cognitive conflict that we will want to try and reduce. It will make us think about it. That is important, that it leads on to cognitive conflict. So it creates a conflict between what the majority view members of the group currently believe and what the minority are telling them, and it means that they are going to have to think about the issues that are being challenged, the information they are presented at a deeper level, because there is a difference in opinion in what they currently hold and what the minority is telling them. Consistency of the position. They need to be consistent, and they'll be more influential if they are consistent in their displaying of messages. So think about Moscovici's research. The augmentation principle. So they need to be willing to take a risk. They need to be seen as committed to their viewpoints. So if they're willing to take consequences, the impact of their message is increased. So the minority position often risks abuse, media attention, imprisonment, or even death for their viewpoints. So think back, they need to be consistent and committed. We learnt about that in minority influence. The snowball effect. So eventually the minority will start to influence more and more people, and then it spreads, and eventually it becomes a majority viewpoint, and then it tips and it leads to a wide-scale social change. So think about the snowball rolling down the hill, it gathers more and more snow. So the minority influence gradually gathers more and more people until minority turns into majority influence. Social cryptamnesia. People have the memory that a change has happened, but they don't know how it has happened. So they don't have the memory of the events that led to the change. So people might be aware that women didn't have the rights to vote, but they might not know about the events that led to women having the right to vote. People might be aware of apartheid in South Africa, but not aware of the events that led to the ending of apartheid. So to try and help you remember the ACASS acronym, so ACCASS, so attention, conflict, consistency, augmentation, snowball effect, social cryptamnesia. That's the process that social change happens in. Now, majority influence and normative social influence can impact in our understanding of social change. So a lot of environmental or health campaigns will use normative social influence in their campaigns. So they provide information about what others are doing to help try and influence people. So for example, in reducing littering, it could be printing normative messages on bins such as "bin it, others do," and this encourages others to go along with the minority behaviour through normative social influence. So they're encouraged to reduce littering in that way. So if we were to look at an example question, a small environmental group wants to encourage people to use public transports or bicycles instead of using their cars. Using your knowledge of the role of minority influence in social change, what advice would you give the environmental group? Well, you need to say that they need to draw attention to the issue and how they could draw attention about using bikes over cars. They need to create a cognitive conflict, so they need to present a message that is different to what the majority already holds. They need to be consistent in what they are saying, so they need to show consistency amongst themselves and consistency over time. They need to demonstrate that they are willing to take a risk, the augmentation principle, so maybe they could risk negative media publicity, it might risk getting a criminal conviction or record if they were to do protests and stopping getting in the way of cars, and then eventually it will lead to the snowball effect, so more and more people taking on the viewpoint, and then eventually leads to social cryptamnesia. So we have some supporting evidence So it looked at whether social influence processes led to a reduction in energy consumption, and they found that actually it did. It had a significant decrease in energy usage in the group that had messages hung on their front doors at their houses every week for a month, compared to a controlled group that didn't have that message. Social change happens slowly, if it happens at all, and the effects of the majority influence are likely to be indirect and delayed. So we've got some contradictory evidence there, and Mackie disagrees and believes that majorities may create deeper processing than minorities. And it's because we like to believe that others share our view and think the same way as us. So we find a majority believes something different, we are forced to think long and hard about arguments. So majorities are more influential than minorities. You could get a 16 marker like this: outline and evaluate the role of social influence in social change. So you talk about the process of social change and how minority influence can happen that way, and then talk about majority and normative social influence through ad campaigns. They're your 2 AA1 paragraphs, and then 3 to 4 evaluation points depending on how you elaborate on them.